You want the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth about sports in the state of Michigan?
You can't handle the truth!
Well, we're giving you the Michigan Sports Truth Podcast, the show that provides research and statistics about all the Detroit and Michigan sports teams, whether fans like it or not, and detects, exposes, and reveals actual and hidden facts and truth that the mainstream media doesn't want you to know. No junk, no entertainment, no homerism, no slappiness, no coddling, no pop culture, no conspiracy theories, no opinions, no shilling, and no fluff. Head over to our website, themichigansportstruthpodcast.com. Follow us on Twitter, Periscope, and Instagram at Michigan_Truth, and like and share our verified Facebook page, the Michigan Sports Truth Podcast. Also listen to us on Spreaker, CastBox, iHeartRadio, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts via iTunes, and Spotify. The Michigan Sports Truth Podcast does not represent or defame any of the teams it covers, nor does it represent or compete against any mainstream media in the state of Michigan. It is also not for entertainment or debating purposes. It only detects, exposes, and reveals honest, actual, and hidden truth, facts, and statistics about them. And it is for every sports fan's own good because the truth is out there.
And welcome to the Michigan Sports Truth Podcast on Staples Media. I'm Taylor Phillips along with Frank Vasner. Ed Smith is having some technical connection issues on his own end right now, but the show must go on. Hopefully he'll join us later on. Orlando Arcia, at bat as the Brewers, just took a 6-5 lead on an Eric Sogard sacrifice fly with the bases loaded and 1 out. Joe Jimenez on the mound. He started the bottom half of the 7th inning. Tigers had a 4-0 lead and just blew it. Then it was 4-3 and it was 5-3. But we'll get to the game summary in a moment. Tigers last week had a single game postponed on Thursday due to racial justice protests, actually. But Friday's game was postponed due to rain and no social issues or the virus or whatever. It's just the rain. And then Saturday, they finally went back to baseball, and the Tigers swept the doubleheader 8-2 and 4-2 over the Minnesota Twins. Miguel Cabrera hit 2 home runs, 1 each in the doubleheader. In Game 1, Matthew Boyd, 6 innings pitched, only 1 earned run. Tariq Skubal in Game 2, 2 earned runs in 5 innings. And remember, there are 7 innings for every doubleheader game. And then Sunday, the Tigers beat the Twins again 3-2. Casey Mize, I hate to say this, but he did not do too well. 2 earned runs in 3 innings pitched, 2 walks and 3 hit batsmen, and a wild pitch. And Casey Mize was having trouble with his command. And I saw on MLB Network that the visual evidence that Casey Mize's arm was bent like a cactus and not extended, which not only affects his command in a negative way, but could get his rotator cuff injured. And I remember when he got injured last year in the minors, Casey Mize in 2018, or in his first game in the minors, threw a no-hitter. It was no joke. But I'll get to more Casey Mize here in a few seconds. But Miguel Cabrera surpassed 2,000 career hits as a Tiger. Jonathan Scope and Jeimer Candelario each hit a solo home run. Candelario tied it. Scope gave the Tigers the lead for good. And Gregory Soto got his first MLB save, and the bullpen was great. And then on Monday at the trade deadline, not only did the Tigers claim right-handed pitcher Dereck Rodriguez off waivers from the San Francisco Giants. Rodriguez, by the way, is the son of Ivan Pudge Rodriguez, a former Tiger. And then the Tigers traded outfielder Cameron Maybin to the Chicago Cubs for prospect infielder Zach Short. And before we get to the Brewers series, Casey Mize, only 3 starts in. His first game he didn't do too bad. Didn't make it through 5 innings, but went through like 4 2/3. But second and third starts were both at home. I remember the second game he had a decent, fresh 1-2-3 first inning against the Chicago Cubs. But Casey Mize faltered after that first inning. The second and third innings, not so great. Didn't throw enough split fingers. And then just this past Sunday, he just struggled in the first 3 innings of the ball game. I know he gave up 2 runs, but again, 2 walks, 3 hit batsmen on a wild pitch. His ERA is over 600. But still, he's only 3 starts in, and some of the fans have called Casey Mize a bust. And for them to say that is just premature. And I just got word that Ed will join us shortly.
Well, that's good to hear, Taylor. And if I may jump in, for those who are saying Casey Mize is a bust, I think those people need to just calm the heck down. He's only made 3 starts. Has he looked great in all 3 starts? No. But at the same time, he hasn't gotten shelled and given up a gazillion home runs or anything like that. So everybody just needs to pump the brakes and relax. Give him time. He's not a bust. So whoever's coming up with that notion, cool it.
Yeah, I even read one fan's tweet calling him a bust, and that's why I said that. And not only that, the Tigers not only have to give Casey Mize time to develop in the majors. I know they can't send him down. That's one thing. They have to help him develop on his mechanics, is what I've talked about before. His right elbow was bent when he tries to let go of the ball on his pitch delivery, and that affects his command. And Pedro Martinez analyzed it very thoroughly on MLB Network on MLB Tonight. That tells you the whole story. Casey Mize needs to just straighten his arm and let go of the ball. As Ed Smith just joined us. Ed Smith, better late than never. How was your weekend? How you doing tonight?
Apologies for my tardiness. Normally, Taylor, I would say that I am in a good mood. I'm in a better enough mood, but I have to say, with the losses that I've experienced, that I've witnessed over the past week, with regard to Chadwick Boseman, and now, of course, with the late John Thompson, it's been draining, very, very draining. So that would be the mood I would say that would describe my feeling at this time.
That's okay. We'll just assume you had another connection issue and bail you out and move on forward. What do you think of the Tigers getting closer to the that second AL wildcard spot? And yes, I just mentioned on the air, they are just a half game back at that second wildcard spot. Ed, give us your thoughts. They've been catching up.
Yes, they have been. And on the one hand, you can appreciate the fact that they are making progress, because that's what you wanted to see, a team that has been relegated to the basement essentially for the past few years now in the Tigers. So at some point you had to have made some type of improvement, whether it had been the draft picks you made, the off-season acquisitions you made, or whatever the case may be. There was nowhere to go but up. So it's good to see that improvements have been made to the point where, hey, the whole words playoff chase doesn't seem too much of a fallacy to believe at all, compared to how we felt that earlier at the beginning of this year. But seeing how the team has performed in spite of certain people having their struggles, Miguel Cabrera being one of those, the Tigers as a team, they performed well enough, and they haven't let anything really deter them too much to the fact that, no, they're not the most talented team. They don't even have the best hitting or the best pitching, whatever the case may be, but they're a team still growing and still learning and still processing. And I think that they've used those experiences, whether in regards to what they went through in the past couple of seasons, to motivate them and all that good stuff. So it's, again, a pleasant surprise, but it's still positive to see progress nonetheless.
Absolutely. Casey Mize, I want to touch on him. Frank and I just talked about it. One fan on Twitter called him a bust after Sunday's sluggish performance. He only allowed 2 runs, but he only lasted 3 innings because he issued 2 walks and hit 3 batters and threw a wild pitch. I saw Pedro Martinez's analysis on MLB Tonight on MLB Network. I saw the visual. Pedro pointed out that Casey Mize's elbow was bent and not straightened when he throws the ball. And that's the type of negative mechanic that affected his command. That's been affecting his command and resulting in really bad stats. And Casey Mize not only needs time to develop, the Tigers need to help him develop.
Yeah, there have been some obviously positives, great signs of promise. Like we mentioned with his first start, he had that split finger pitch working to practically perfection. Obviously, he has had a bit of a rough go ever since, but I want to remind people that not every prospect always had the most excellent of starts, especially if you're a pitcher. I seem to remember a young Justin Verlander still getting the hands of things, even past his rookie season. There was a point where, I'm sure some people had some thoughts or similar thoughts on how young Verlander looked. I guess I would say in the aftermath of his rookie season, felt he probably didn't prove it enough. Like right up until his first no-hitter, I think people had that similar skeptical energy that they do now. but it's still very, very early, and I'm not going to worry or fret too much because he still has plenty of time. And I think he's got the right people around where he can tone down on the, the little mannerisms that may end up being mistakes, and be willing to improve from there.
Yeah, I'm definitely with you. It's very crystal clear. Casey Mize, he'll adjust, like even Chris Castellani pointed out on his Twitter handle at Castellani2014 on his videos and in his tweets. His performance and command weren't there this past Sunday. But we still have faith in Casey Mize. He's only, like we pointed out several times before, only 3 starts in. That's what another fan pointed out. Just collaborate all this information together and try to be fair.
Yeah, Verlander himself was not exactly setting the world on fire 2005, or even if it's rookie year.
Right. So there's your comparison. Jeimer Candelario swings and misses on a fastball way too high. Candelario, you got to let that one go. 6-5 Milwaukee. Brewers lead in the top of the 8th inning. Bases empty, 1 out. Willie Castro at bat, actually. That's not Jeimer Candelario. Castro was the one that swung at one way too high, and now he takes low and outside for ball 2-2 the count. 2 balls, 2 strikes. So, Ed, what are your thoughts on the Tigers claiming Dereck Rodriguez, the right-handed pitcher, off waivers from the San Francisco Giants, and then the Cameron Maybin trade at the deadline for prospect infielder Zach Short, Chicago Cubs?
Again, to me, depending on the moves that they made, what they gave up, and what they're getting back, to me, this is a team that still feels that they're not fully ready to, let's say, compete for a division title or try to make a deep playoff run. They're playing their best right now. That's all you can hope for. But the way that they're currently constructed, even before the season started, I was mentioning to you guys that, no, this is not a contending team, nor should it be seen as a contending team. But they're making strides and they're making improvements, so kudos to them. But no, I don't consider them to be any type of dark horse that could make a run for the postseason, whether it be for a division title or one of the wild card spots. But again, my thoughts are just a reaction to the moves that they made this past week, for sure.
Yeah, I believe you. It is still 6-5 Milwaukee. Christian Stewart facing an 0-2 count with 2 outs now and the bases empty. So we got 3 short DSR articles to blaze through in our TMSTP Story Vault. Let's get to them right now. First up, from November 8, 2017, Jeff Moss headlines, Braylon Edwards out at 97 won the ticket. Yes, Braylon Edwards was fired 3 years ago. According to a source, Moss writes, former U of M standout and NFL wide receiver Braylon Edwards is no longer working at 97 won the ticket, and it has nothing to do with Edwards' on-air dust-up with Mike Valenti last month over Michigan State's most recent victory over Edwards' alma mater, which got fairly intense. According to my source, Edwards showed up for a live remote broadcast at Hockeytown Cafe in an inebriated state and had some sort of run-in with Pat Caputo. So Braylon Edwards got into it with Pat Caputo a little bit. The details are sketchy, Moss continues, and I am attempting to get more information, but I am told that at some point Edwards had to be coaxed out of the broadcast location by Valenti, who was also in the building, and then when Edwards attempted to return, Valenti had to physically block the former Cleveland Browns player from entering. It's a bizarre situation, to say the least. From what I am told, Edwards was doing some work as a U of M insider and appeared on the station's NFL pregame show on Sunday. Another source has advised me that 97-1 execs told Edwards that he could only keep his gig if he agreed to a drug test. He refused. So it was the belief of that station that he was under the influence of narcotics. So apparently this video of YouTube, which I've watched time and time again, actually was not the reason Braylon Edwards was fired. There were 2 different reasons. His altercation with Pat Caputo and then his refusal to take a drug test. Ouch. Ed, we'll start with you, and then we'll head over to Frank. Ed, blaze away.
Yeah, I will say that, if I worked at that station, I probably would have the same feelings regarding most of the talent, including Pat Caputo. That's number 1. And number 2, in regards to the drug test, I don't think there's any too nefarious. Maybe he didn't want anything that he's using recreationally to show up in his results. That could be a thing. That could be one issue that led to it, or there may be something else that he was taking that he didn't feel that it was too personal. They didn't want showing up in any type of results to be part of any type of discussion. So that's always a possibility. But I'm not surprised because I think, listening to Braylon and seeing how he's been on social media, his personality, was just too strong, would have been too strong for that station to handle. They want someone, even though you're a Wolverine fan, they want someone who they feel they can get over as gullible or, think is not a threat to give it back to Mike, so to speak, or any of those other Spartans in a credible, factual debate. So it's not too surprising that, we don't have enough people like Braylon that work up at that station. Otherwise, we'd be having a much, much more different atmosphere than what we've currently experienced.
Yep, so bizarre. Frank, anything to add?
I mean, there were times I would listen to Braylon on the station, and he did have some good analysis. But, of course, I mean, you can't be using drugs recreationally if you want to hope to keep your job, especially one that requires random drug testing.
And you can't refuse to take a drug test either.
Yeah, and I say this too because, I've mentioned time and time again that I'm working at Amazon and Romulus now, and I have been told that I could be subjected to a drug test either on suspicion of an accident that happens or maybe even randomly. So that's why I've got to keep my nose clean as well. So, if there's a lesson here, it's don't do drugs. And if they want to test you, then don't refuse a test. Otherwise, you're going to be looking elsewhere for work.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because if you're on drugs and you refuse to take a drug test, you're not safe to work, technically.
You're essentially opening that door to criticism and speculation by refusing to do the drug test in the first place.
Definitely. Without a doubt, 100%. Bottom 8 now, 6'5", Milwaukee. Buck Farmer on for the Tigers on the rubber. Nobody out, and a runner on first. Bottom 8 just getting underway. But anyway, we go to article number 2 from Jeff Moss of the DSR, and the runner is safe. The tag was very, very late. Scope took way too much time on the tag. The Austin Romine's throw was on time and on target, but I thought Jonathan Scope waited a little bit too long on the tag. Oh, nope, the throw was not in time. Never mind. Anyway, from May 29, 2014, headlining Nick Castellanos' girlfriend calls the karma police on Joe Nathan. He writes, well, this sure escalated fast. For the second time this week, a Detroit professional athlete's baby mama has made news. This time it is the beautiful fiancée of Tigers third baseman Nick Castellanos, who now plays for the Reds. He got traded to the Cubs and now plays for the Reds. But continuing on, you probably already know by now the drama that occurred Wednesday evening in Oakland when Tigers closer Joe Nathan blew a 1-0 lead in the ninth inning by giving up a 3-run bomb to Josh Donaldson. And you probably are already aware that the play before Nathan served at that cloudy with a chance of meatball up to Donaldson, the Tigers' rookie third baseman dropped a catchable ball hit by John Jaso. Anyway, after the game, when Nathan was being interviewed by various Detroit Tigers cheerleader beat writers, Joe basically threw Nick under the proverbial bus by repeatedly mentioning how tough his job became after Castellanos failed to make that play, which was ruled a hit, by the way. I believe it should have been an error. This is where Vanessa Hernandez and all of her hotness enters the picture. She is Nick's girlfriend. They have a son who will turn 1 this August. Her Twitter handle is @NessieHern, @NESSIHERN, @NessieHern, or was. In the middle of Thursday's Joe Nathan meltdown, which this time didn't lead to a Tigers loss, Vanessa or Nessie or the future Mrs. Nick tweeted the following: "Karma is a funny thing." Obviously, this tweet was in response to Nathan taking Castellanos' lifeless body and throwing it in front of a speeding vehicle driven by Sandy Bullock on Wednesday evening in that dump of a baseball stadium the A's play in. So one of my loyal readers / minions at Cornell9 found this tweet because he obviously is a real creep who has nothing better to do than follow a Tiger's wives' fiancés and sent it to me. Of course, that is when all hell broke loose. It started with Vanessa trying to explain that this was all a big misunderstanding. Okay, and here is how I handled the situation. From Nessie Hearn: nothing wrong with protecting your man. Also, you're very attractive. Much better than Nathan's wife. Jeff Moss responded: in solidarity of Nick Castellanos versus Joe Nathan, let's all follow his smoking hot fiance @Nessie Hearn. And then Moss continued on Twitter: and now Nick's fiance has deleted the tweet. Why do people delete this stuff? You can't erase the internet with whiteout. And then he quotes Nessie Hearn's tweet, oh my God, people are crazy, with this tweet. We like you. We are taking your side. Don't turn your back on us. Better text Nick and warn him, though. And then Moss continued on again. This is what you get. This is what you get. This is what you get when you mess with Nessie Hearn. For a minute there, I lost myself. The lyrics of Radiohead, Karma Police. And now the tweet is gone, and her entire account is gone. The saying is true. No good deed goes unpunished. In a matter of 5 minutes, I got Nick's future bride about 50 new followers, including Tony Poe and Bob Wojnarowski of the Detroit News, and took her side in this squabble. The thanks I get is a disappearing act and a sorry that page doesn't exist message. But unfortunately for Nessie, Twitter isn't Snapchat, and I always preserve the evidence. Now, we knew Joe Nathan was a jackass his whole tenure as a Tiger, as we turn over to Ed and then Frank. But this was a good example of cowardliness right there by Joe Nathan, of course. And I know Joe Nathan being an idiot to the fans, but throwing Nick Castellanos under the bus. But that's what annoyed Jeff Miss, who had to dig deep. So, Ed, we'll turn it over to you and then turn it over to Frank. Ed, just give us your best analogy on Joe Nathan throwing Nick Castellanos under the bus. Go right ahead.
Okay, so my regards to Nick Castellanos and his girlfriend. It's quite unfortunate, I should say, in terms of that regard. There's reason people try to hold others, for some reason, to a higher standard by way of how their spouses may react or may not react on social media in regards to certain situations, certain moments. So definitely unfortunate would be the right word to say, in a bit of a unrelated note, but somewhat similar fashion. What it reminds me of, so to speak, was how some people were being critical of Colin Kaepernick because of posts on social media that his fiance or significant other had made, which I felt again was an unfair statement because again, what she posts on her own time on her account, that's her business. Same thing in regards to Nick and his girlfriend here. So I'm not all in favor of someone being told, like, oh, you have to censor or shut down or move your account or any of that, because that's just not the right thing in my view. I would say be more advisory, be more warning and foreboding and be mindful, let them know that, hey, there are certain things that are okay to post, since we are in a country where we can still believe, I would say somewhat believe in the First Amendment, so you can still post what you want to post, but always be mindful and be aware of the scenario and the situation and the background and the hornet's nest you could be stepping in if you say or post the wrong thing. There's nothing wrong with being polarizing, but you can't be too toxic with what you post because it risks alienating you, and in turn could affect your significant other. And that's, I think, one reason that we saw it here in regards to Nick Castellanos. So, again, unfortunate is the word I would use, but also this could be used as a lesson for others that are well-notable sports figures and they have significant others, that, hey, you can still encourage them to use their voice, use their platform, but just be advisory to them that, hey, if there's a certain thing or a certain topic or a certain view you're about to post, be mindful, because what you post on that certain topic, on that certain subject, could be the difference between, hey, I'm in a valuable, elevatable position to teams may not want to deal with it anymore because I may be perceived as having baggage. So there it is.
Yeah. And before we get to Frank, Jace Peterson just took Buck Farmer deep for a 2-run home run to extend the Brewers' lead to 8-5 in the bottom of the 8th.
Oh yeah, that's
with
over.
2 outs.
That's game.
Yeah. Yeah, the bullpen was, some of the relief pitchers just don't have it tonight.
Yeah, that was
the
push and pull that I was trying to refer to, of how, we're getting there. We're making steps forward. We're making progress, but we're nowhere near being a contender. So, again, the decision to sell with the trade regards to Cameron Maybin and whatnot, justified even more now.
Yeah, the fact that they're a half game behind in that second wild card spot, or the Tigers probably may turn out to be a mirage later on this season, or when the season is all said, regular season is all said and done. So, Frank, what can I say? Joe Nathan, go ahead.
Yeah, I'll just say it. Joe Nathan was just a jackass. I mean, blaming Castellanos for losing the game. Yeah, no, that doesn't cut it. You win and lose as a team. You didn't lose because of him dropping the ball, which it was a hit. I actually remember this, and yeah, it was a hit, not an error.
Well, scored a hit.
Yeah, it was scored as a hit, so that's how it was. And who gave up said hit? You did. So why couldn't you just go and take responsibility like a man and say, yeah, it's on me, I gotta be better? No, you decide to go and blame others for your problem, and you know what you got? Exactly what Castellanos' girlfriend at the time said, karma.
Yep.
I mean,
there's the karma police.
He could have at least warned his teammate before he threw him under the bus.
Yeah.
Or at least,
good point.
Yeah, but don't go blame. This is a lesson to anyone who's on a team. Don't go blaming others for your problems.
I mean, considering the fact this is the same Joe Nathan that wanted to criticize the fans because they had the mere audacity to boo him because he was having a horrible performance. That speaks to the level of person that he is, not just on the field, but off the field as well.
Yeah, kind of like Ben Roethlisberger blaming a lot of his players, but not himself, on the Pittsburgh Steelers when urinating tree pointed all those things out in his videos on YouTube.
Yes, the glorious leader of men.
Yeah,
far from what Joe Nathan is or wishes he could be.
Yeah, that's true. So we go to article number 3. Jeff Moss of the Detroit Sports Rag on January 4th, 2014. Lou Whitaker isn't a Jack Morris fan. There are a lot of people in the baseball world who don't believe that Jack Morris should be inducted into the Hall of Fame, which he already has been. Pretty much every sabermetric devotee, as well as anyone who understands that a pitcher's main job is to prevent runs from being scored. You wouldn't have thought that former Tigers teammate Lou Whitaker would be in lockstep with those who are keeping Jack Morris out of the Hall of Fame, but you'd be wrong. On Friday, the former Tigers second baseman appeared on MLB Radio Network's Inside Pitch with host Jeff Joyce and Jim Bowden. According to DSR co-founder Greg Schultz, who was listening to the program, Sweet Lou went on a bizarre tirade blasting his former ace. Whitaker basically claimed that Morris was only good because of the double play combo playing behind him. Alan Trammell and Lou, of course. Schultz said that Whitaker sounded like an ex-athlete who is suffering from some debilitating brain injury. Other people on Twitter insinuated that the Jehovah's Witness sounded drunk. I'm pretty sure that members of Lou's faith aren't allowed to imbibe, so that excuse would be odd. I am currently trying to get the audio of this jaw-dropping interview, as it doesn't appear anywhere online. Maybe MLB Radio is trying to protect Whitaker from further embarrassment. Numerous listeners advised me that Joyce and Bowden tried to save Whitaker from himself, but when they realized that was impossible, they pulled the ripcord on the interview. So what is Whitaker's beef with Jack Morris? Is he either an advanced metric geek or a card-carrying member of PETA? We will continue to hunt down this audio, and we'll post it on the DSR when we obtain it. So we'll turn it over to Ed and Frank. Ed, it seemed as if Lou Whitaker wasn't really speaking truthfully about Jack Morris being good only with Lou and Alan Trammell in the middle infield behind him. Keep in mind, that team in that generation won one World Series title in 1984, the year I was born. So, Ed, go right ahead. What's your analogy on that?
I think my analogy on that could be the fact that Whitaker... Now, again, this is all my thoughts and all my conjecture on this, but if I could offer my own speculation or my own theory as to why Lou Whitaker had that supposed reaction. Now, I don't remember there being any any audio of that day, of that interview being produced. So, again, I can't really judge for myself the true intent because I don't have the words to listen to and analyze or react to by that regard. But still, I would say, I think one reason why Whitaker might have had the feelings he had because, you know, there was all this talk and hype and, I wouldn't say hype, but discussion about, you know, it's such a travesty, such a sham that Jack Morris is in the Hall of Fame. Meanwhile, you know, you see what Lou Whitaker, and at that point, I don't think even Alan Trammell had been elected to the Hall of Fame at that point. Now, and I think Lou might have felt, hey, you know, let's not forget that me and Trammell was one good reason he might have had those better-looking numbers because we saved his butt with our defense year after year. But that could be what he's feeling in regards to that, and that level of appreciation is being shown in regards to saying, hey, What about Lou Whitaker's Hall of Fame bid? Which, by the way, I've been beating that drum for quite some time. Sweet Lou should absolutely be in Hall of Fame. Now, I'm not sure. I know about Morris. I'm not sure if memory recollects properly that Tram got in, but I know for a fact that Lou Whitaker is still not in. Which again, it is complete ludicrousy and an example of how significant changes need to be made to the board, or at least how the process is gone about when selecting Hall of Famers. Because I think when you have a guy like Lou Whitaker who has produced the numbers that he produced, the era that he played in, and the fact that he's perceived as someone who didn't ruin or hurt the integrity of the game in any way, shape, or form, why wouldn't you not have him in your Hall of Fame? So I think that was more so Lou letting his own personal feelings influence his opinion in that regard. Again, not to say that he's completely incorrect, because there are some evidence out there that might back his claims or what he was talking about. But I think you also have to take that into consideration, like, there might be some more personal envy, the fact that, hey, I don't remember hearing or seeing all these people trying to bring up my case where I should be in the Hall of Fame. Well, so why should this person or this player who may have been inferior to how I produce and how me and my other teammates produce, why should he get all this glory discussion and I'm left out in the dust? So I think that would be my theory as to why Lou had his perceived thoughts in that.
All right, Frank, we'll turn over to you now. So, Frank, your thoughts on Luke Whitaker's beef on Jack Morris?
Well, pretty much second what Ed said. And, of course, I'm in the same boat as him with saying that Lou should be in the Hall of Fame as well. Oh, and as for the beef with Jack, I think it's time to just let it go. It happened years ago. Move on from it. It's over, done with. You got bigger fish to fry.
Yeah. I still believe that Lou Whitaker will be in the Hall of Fame one day. So that is our TMSTP Story Vault segment. We blazed through those 3 articles, didn't we? They were short and sweet. So just a couple of headlines before we get to the Nassar stuff. Pistons hire former Los Angeles Lakers executive Ryan West to a player evaluation role in their front office, according to Tom Pelissero. And then the Lions have signed offensive tackle Taylor Decker to a 6-year, $85 million contract extension with $37.5 million guaranteed. The Brewers just won 8-5 over the Tigers. Turnbull opens up. I don't know what that means. One of the captions from FSD coming up on Tigers Live, the post game. Before we get to Ed and then Frank, the Lions are also putting Kenny Golladay next in line to get a contract extension as well. So, Ed, we're going to let you go first, and then Frank will follow up. Ed, like you pointed out off the air in our private chat group on Messenger, he's a decent offensive line, but still an outrageous deal nonetheless. Ed, go ahead.
I would say they may be going on the lines of the fact that he did perform a little bit better. There were some spots where I thought he should have been much better in certain spots, or there was a game or two where he wasn't at his best. But for the most part, he was adequate and decent, and I think Pro Football Talk, or the numbers that they mentioned, was the fact that in terms of in the pocket, Stafford had a 94% protection rate, or whatever the case that may have been. So you can attribute some of that, obviously, to the job that Taylor Decker had done, because when you're protecting your QB's blind spot, that is your main priority. And I think he did a decent enough job to where the team felt like, hey, he should be rewarded, and they want to lock him up more importantly. So this is a bit of an overpay, but I think they had to do that to make sure he will be under lock, so to speak, for the foreseeable future. So that was their priority. They got that done. For the Ryan West hire, he has been doing some work with the Lakers over the past couple of years. So give or take on how you may feel about that, you may feel that the Lakers have only gotten better because they got LeBron and Anthony Davis. So that I wouldn't be, that's a fair argument, I would say. But it's more than just that. There are other elements, other things that come into play as to how the Lakers went from where they were to where they are now. And I think some of their staff has to deserve some kudos for that. So That if you want to be more optimistic, that would be the mindset that you would feel in regards to the Pistons making this move. And what else did you mention in regards to the lines? I heard Taylor Decker and I heard the Pistons.
Yeah, also Kenny Golladay was next in line to get an extension with the Lions as well. And if they do, we'll get the details.
Yeah. And in terms of Kenny Golladay, the way he's been improving, I see him eventually becoming that deep ball, consistent go-to deep ball threat not exactly the way Calvin Johnson was, but on a similar level. You see how Stafford has gone to him whenever he has, or at how he has viewed him as a valuable weapon and a valuable target. So he's still on his rookie deal, but you want to try and get that taken care of too before that becomes a situation. So we may see a similar move to where they may have to overpay just a little bit, but they want to keep their blue chipper under wraps and under control and under lock. So that way they don't risk him walking out and losing him for nothing, so to speak, the way other free agents, notably Ndamukong Suh, left the team, so to speak. So they want to at least take care of that situation before it gets too out of hand. So, hey, I'm all for it. As long as Kenny keeps improving, he and Stafford keep showing that trust and chemistry with each other. Hey, pay him as much as he deserves.
Yeah, Kenny Golladay deserves an extension. Frank, you would have to agree with this, wouldn't you?
You're absolutely right, I do, too. I mean, Taylor Decker, they did have to re-sign him. Granted, I think they did pay a little bit too much for him because I don't think he's an elite left tackle, but at the same time, he's also not complete garbage juice either. So you had to have somebody come in and keep protecting Matt Stafford. As for the Golladay possible extension, it's now become a priority because he's basically your best pass catcher that you have on your roster. I'm not saying they should give him Calvin Johnson type of money, but I think you gotta keep him around. Otherwise, Stafford's not gonna have anybody to rely on who's a deep threat. So bring it.
Marvin Jones is going to be there forever.
Yeah. Father Time is catching up with Marvin Jones. Thank you for that, Ed.
Right. You got the younger, taller, more athletic player here in Golladay. That is your perceived future going forward. So it's quite imperative that you would want to get that deal taken care of as soon as possible.
Yeah.
Yes.
And as for the Pistons bringing in Ryan West, I know he's done some work with the Lakers, but again, the Lakers being better is mostly attributed to LeBron James and Anthony Davis playing out there. So we'll see how this move pays off in the long run. And we still got to see how they go in their first off season with Troy Weaver at the helm as GM. So that one is kind of remain to be seen.
Yep, we'll keep our eyes on things like that. So now for the developing story. From ESPN, the Associated Press, headlining Michigan State review of campus policy mostly clears staff members who received complaints about Larry Nassar. It is written like this: Michigan State University found mostly compliance with campus policy in a review of roughly 20 former or current staff members who were said to have received complaints about Larry Nassar, the doctor convicted of sexually abusing female athletes, according to a report Tuesday. That was yesterday. The report is part of a 2019 agreement with the U.S. Department of Education, which included a $4.5 million fine, ouch, and MSU's pledge to change how it responds to sexual harassment and assault. The school was required to determine if employees properly handled the complaints about Nassar based on policies in place at the time of the allegation. MSU found that the evidence fell mostly in favor of staff. MSU reviewed the actions of the athletic department, medical staff, coaches, and some faculty members. Some couldn't recall receiving complaints about Nassar, and others said they weren't provided enough details to alarm them. Victims sometimes acknowledge that, according to the report. MSU President Samuel Stanley Jr. told the Lansing State Journal, quote, "What we were trying to do was respond to the query that came from the government, which was to take a look at what was done in the context of our policies then, and was it done appropriately. It's hard for me to go back and say whether a mistake was made or not," unquote. The report noted that campus police prepared prepared a case against Nassar in 2015, but the local prosecutor's office declined to file charges, saying that the doctor appeared to be performing a very innovative procedure involving a ligament. The report says psychology professor Gary Stolak failed in 2004 to report an allegation of abuse by a girl who informed him during counseling outside his campus job. Stolak has repeatedly said that he can't remember because of the effects of a stroke. He retired in 2010 and gave up his license. Nassar's former boss, William Strample, was convicted of willful neglect of duty for failing to adequately supervise Nassar during and after a 2014 investigation. Strample quit in 2018, 2 years ago. Former gymnastics coach Kathy Klages was recently sentenced to 90 days in jail for lying to police, though she claims that she can't remember two teens telling her in 1997 that Nassar abused them. Yeah, that's a lie, too. Klages was not required to report the allegation under policies in place at that time, the report said. The youth gymnastics program was also outside Klages' employment, but that doesn't mean that MSU would not have responded if told about the allegations, the report said. So there's yet even another person that has blood on his hands. That's Gary Stolak, not reporting that incident of a girl being abused by Nassar. That girl reported that stuff to Gary Stolak, and he failed to pass it on. Otherwise, he might have ignored it or something like that. So, Ed, we'll turn it over to you and then go over to Frank, and then we'll close it out with a closing statement. Ed, go ahead.
It's not too surprising when you read up on these regards that internally MSU might have thought that, hey, the certain elements, certain players that could have reeled Nassar in, could have ended this whole thing sooner, or, the most important figures that may have been seen as possibly complicit in all this, they, as you mentioned in your report, Taylor, they've either stepped down from their position, they've been fired, they went to jail, whatever the case may be, or in the case of Lou and K. Simon, are no longer involved with the school at all. So, in their regards, MSU may feel, okay, we got rid of the certain players, we got rid of those people, they're no longer involved. So in our view, that means that since that was taken care of, this is our thoughts on the matter. So there's some elements of that to which I disagree. I think there was more complicity, more of a complicit nature being shown throughout more staff than we know of, or than what is being let on. Again, MSU, they could have handled this much better and it should not have gotten to this point. It never should have gotten to this point at all. And the same thing that I'm criticizing Michigan for letting the right hand stuff go on for what had happened, which is more unfair to criticize them about. You can do the same thing absolutely here to MSU when it comes to Larry Nassar. It was brought up more than one time, more than one occasion. The warning signs were there, the red flags were there, and they were either ignored or they were covered up. So either way, action is horrible in its regard and beyond negligible. So it's, again, a lesson, so to speak, to how other teams and other schools need to take situations and moments like this much more seriously, so that way, if they have, God forbid, a predator in their midst, they can be able to sort things out and rectify the situation much quicker before the situation blows up in their face, the way that we have seen in other schools, Michigan, at MSU, at Penn State, at Baylor. And it's not just those schools. Trust me. It goes on and more than what we know. If you want to say tip of the iceberg, this will be a proverbial example of it, but I don't know if they're willing to truly dig deep and get to the root of a problem such as this, which is regards to sexual abuse that's taking place at all of our college campuses, not just in the doctor's offices, not just in the sports physicians, any and everywhere, all across our campuses. And it's about time that this issue got the awareness that it deserves.
Definitely. All right, Frank, what do you make of this report?
Kind of what Ed said. I mean, yeah, there have been those who have gotten there and what they deserve for their roles in this. But again, there's still more that's coming up seemingly by the month. And those people that were involved or complicit in this need to be brought forth to justice. And it's the same deal with the Robert Anderson in case of the University of Michigan or any university in this nation of ours, or as anyone who covered anything up like this needs to get their day.
Oh, yeah, for sure. So we've come to the closing statement segment, guys. Ed will let you give out your closing statement, and then we'll turn it over to Frank. Ed, go ahead.
In regards to my closing statement, it will be a word of motivation, a word of uplifting to my community, people that look like me, the people that may not have the same stories, maybe but a similar same background. There's been a lot to unload and go through and witness what we have seen in this year to the point to where it is exhausting, it is draining, and it is tiring. You know the calls for justice, you know of all of that changes that are needed in our system. But it's more than that. When you lose Kobe Bryant, when you lose Chadwick Boseman, when you lose John Thompson, when you lose so many people in such a short amount of time in the manner and the fashion, whether in regards to whether or not we're going through a pandemic, just all of this in general, it can be so deflating and just tiring to the point where you just feel mentally you want to give up at some point. But my message to me is do not give up. Show that mettle, show that resolve, show that will. And if you wanted to truly honor those that we have lost and preserve their memory and enrich and develop and grow their legacy permanently and forever, my best advice would be is to persevere, stay strong, and don't lose hope, don't lose faith, and don't lose the trust and the belief in yourself. We're in hell right now. Absolutely. But we're not defeated. We're still here. And as long as there's breath in all our bodies, they can't stop us. They can't get rid of all of us. They can't control all of us. So as long as we have that mindset and that clear thinking in our view, then there's nothing that we can't accomplish. There's nothing that we can't do. And there's nothing that we can't say that permits us from achieving what we all want to achieve. Better equality, better ways of life, just a better outlook for what you want our future generations to experience, as opposed to the same bull crap that our past and our present is and have experienced. So keep hope alive. It sounds dumb to say, but it's all we got at this point.
Yep. Frank, what's your closing statement?
Geez, another tough one to follow up from Ed. Well, first, Ed, let me say that was very well said. And I'm going to base mine a little bit off of yours. It's just kind of in response to who we've lost recently. You mentioned John Thompson. You mentioned Chadwick Boseman. I mean, for me, who's someone who is a high school sports official, I recently lost someone who was a softball umpire, Marv Kruger. He was back. He lost his battle to cancer. And I've learned that there's another fellow official, whom I have worked with personally, who's fighting for his life due to severe issues. And my message is to those people that you love and care for, cherish every moment you have with them, because you never know when you may never see them again. And tell your family you love them every time you see them. Tell your friends the same thing too. Enjoy every moment you get with everyone important to you in your life, because you never know when that moment comes that it could be the last time you see them alive.
Yeah, even I have to tell my family that too. My closing statement, it's weird that the Tigers have made a comeback and now they are this close to a playoff spot, even during this pandemic, even though they lost C.J. Cron to what was called what could be at least a regular season-ending injury. But I know if the Tigers make the playoffs, C.J. Cron might join them like later on or something like that in October in the extended playoffs, 16 teams. But you never know what's going to happen. The Tigers might make it, they might not. We'll see what happens. That's our closing statement segment. Guys, excellent job as always. We'll talk next week. Fred Smith and Frank Vasner, this is Taylor Phillips signing off. Thanks very much for listening, downloading, and sharing. And remember, the Michigan Sports Truth Podcast on Staples Media. The truth is out there. TTFN, ta-ta for now, bon appetit, hit him with a hind. We rest our case. Stay safe.